up is another thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is going to be a little better explained in my full length video. Because YouTube system doesn't let you do a short over a minute long, and that's kind of a sloppy system on YouTube's end. Google should update that. But we're gonna talk about mileage, right? And why putting too many miles on your car, depending on what type of mileage you drive, is bad for it. Say, if you got a car and you whipped 100,000 miles on it in 2 years, well, anybody with a half a brain cell in their head can determine that, hey, no one in their right mind can drive 100,000 miles in 2 years in Boston, right? Or their head would be spinning like The Exorcist, or his head would be spinning like a washer machine drum with the battery hooked up to it from a freaking car, okay? Now, it's going to be mostly highway mileage. And in that case, hey, highway mileage is equivalent to 20% city mileage. Right? So, but then, say you're a cheapskate like me, and you buy a car like, put my 2010 Nissan Altima on lane. You buy a car for $3,000, and you're only putting a couple of thousand miles a year on it. Say you do under 5,000 miles a year. You want to change the oil once a year or every 6 months. So, like, put the Altima back on the line. Like, that thing, there was the first 2 years that I had it. I had that thing for a couple of years. One of the years that I had it, I only put about 800 miles on it in 1 year. 800 miles in 1 year. So, I did the oil in 6 months, which would have been changed at 400 miles. And I bet you people are wondering, how on earth did I only put 800 miles a year on my car? And how it was is I lived and worked in the same thing. And I'm lazy. I don't want to go anywhere. I was too lazy. Hey, guess what? I wasn't dieting that very well that portion of my life. I ate a lot of tacos, and sometimes I had a gas voltage meter that I would also stick in my car to make sure there's no gas leaks. But then what I would do is I would stick it in my ears when I ate a lot of tacos, and it would go off, but it would go off like a fire truck. Really, when you got to get out there a little more, you'll gain a lot of weight. You won't be the size of a house, you'll be the size of a city. Really? Okay, so the next year I had that thing. I only put about 4,000 miles a year on it because the battery was going low, and I just wanted to drive it around a little more. And I changed the oil one time in that car. And of course, when you're putting that low mileage in your car, you want to check the tires. You know how many times I've heard of people that, like, somebody in my family years ago, she used to not drive very much. And this was back when they got married. They were my parents, you know. And my mother had a Ford Escort, right? And she probably wasn't putting very many miles on it because she was young at the time, right? And chances are, when she blew the engine, because it blew up from oil exhaustion, and my dad had to deal with engine overhaul on the driveway, right? And a lot of times how that happens is somebody, in that case, young girl at the time, didn't know much about cars, and probably was only driving in a few miles a day. And to put 12,000 miles a year in your car, you got to be doing 70 miles a day. 70,000 miles a day, you would be doing 7.3 billion miles a year. And so that's what happens. A lot of modern cars, they say every 5,000, like the RAV4, say every 5,000 miles, the service Toyota dealer oil change, blah, 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 blah system like comes on. But that's mandatory for under 5,000 miles. So over 5,000 miles. So if you have a RAV4 with one of those systems and you're putting less than 500 miles a year, I've seen people that have put 1,000 miles a year on those things, and all of a sudden the thing's running like crap. The engines have blown up, and I say, "How on earth is that thing running that bad?" And they said, "Oh, I don't know." And then I say, "Okay, how often did you drive that?" And one of them was really lazy, and you know what he said? "Oh, the thing's been sitting for a couple of weeks." And I said, "Okay, well, did you jump start the battery? Did you do anything?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I jump started the battery and it started making a banging, clanking noise and it started overheating. But I drove it anyways." So blew the engine. And that was from what happened is because the car wasn't driven much. What happened is the oil got bloppy on the cylinder heads. And then once the cylinder started moving quicker, and the car actually started to on bird bath itself, what happened is it caused blow by, and it blew by all the oil and blew the engine up. And another thing is when you're running a car hard, do you know what the quickest way to not blow your engine? Don't run your car hot. Because what happens is when you're running the car hot, all of the gaskets are bulging out of place. It's just what a boner idea it is to keep driving a car when it's overheating. You really must like your head gasket blowing up if you're into that. So if you want more Ryan, like, comment, and subscribe.